The Collective Whisper Podcast with Simon Keane. Hello everybody, welcome to today's show. I'd like to welcome Juliana Erkkonen and Donal Gibbons, who are with us here today. Juliana Erkkonen, who moved to the west of Ireland from Finland in 2003, is a fiddle player who has played with many bands in Finland and Ireland, such as the Invisible Chirp Band, the Rocky River Bluegrass Show, Mikey and the Scallywags, and is currently part of the folk band The Rains with Ruth, Dillon and Yvonne Tiernan. Donal Gibbons is a musician from Claghanover who hosts a music show on Claghanover Sounds radio station. He has ran a stage in Electric Picnic and was the organiser of the Last Waltz tribute show, a tribute to the band, in the Black Box and other promotions. Himself and Juliana have also formed a group consisting of Stephen Monaghan, the Snatches, Will Merrigan, the Saw Doctors, Jimmy O'Neill, the Brad Pitt Light Orchestra, Anto Thistlewaite, the Waterboys and the Saw Doctors, and Dave Clancy. The name of this group is Cousin Talbot. Okay, Juliana and Donal, welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Good. How's things?
Thanks a million for having us.
It's my pleasure. You know, it's great to have. I like to have local artists and people from around my County Galway and Mayo side. It's great because the kind of aim of this show was kind of to get celebrities and musicians and actors, but from all sides of life, not just people who are, from the other side of the world, but local artists and everything. And, it's nice. And as I said, Juliana, you'd been on the show before with the Rains. And, I kind of said I wanted to bring you all back one by one, and Ruth was on the show. And Donal, as I said, you've been on my radar. I love your radio show and it's great. And you're kind of doing something similar to myself, where you have local artists on and talking to people from around the community and bring them on your show. It's a great idea. And I love to see that local kind of initiative. It's brilliant.
That's it. It's pure community radio.
Like the thing about that is, yourself with music and in the music industry, it's hard to make a living and it's hard to get your music out there. And nowadays, I think community radio is the answer. It's the only way that local people can hear local music.
Well, it's true, yeah. Of all the shows we did one with all local music, and it was by far the most popular. So, there is a market out there to play local music. It's the established local stations don't pick up on it so much. Like it's hard to get some play on, say, Galway Bay or Midwest or any of these. Like it can be tricky enough. It's not impossible, but. It's nice just to have something that will play all local music, I
was going to say, that's a big gripe of mine sometimes is that local radio stations don't play. I mean, like Galway FM and Midwest and all these maybe don't play enough local music because they don't want to take the chance. And it'd be great if music stations took the chance and saw what the public thought of it because yourself, if they played local artists more, local people would say, they'd request it and say, can you play that again? But unfortunately, the programmers make a decision and you never hear these artists half the time.
Well, that's it. You're kind of down to, you send it to one person and if he likes it, it's played. If he doesn't, it's not. That's the way it is. But they have their systems, I suppose, if it works for them.
Juliana, is it like that in Finland for you as well? Like is it hard for local artists to get played on the radio?
Look, I haven't really played. I haven't been in. I haven't lived in Finland since 2003. So obviously, most of my kind of as a hobby, I was very actively playing music in Finland and stuff, but I wasn't playing on the radios and all that kind of stuff in Finland because I moved here when I was in my early 20s. So I don't know so much about the Finnish radio more than that they actually play a lot more Finnish music, but it wouldn't be like they don't have kind of folk music isn't that big in Finland. I was playing all my life folk music, but it wouldn't have been played on the radio now or anything. But the national radio stations, they do play a lot of Finnish music, but it could be still certain style of music and that kind of thing. So maybe a little bit different because there's a lot of artists in Finland who can become huge in Finland, but nobody will ever hear of them anywhere else outside of Finland. So yeah, they could be a little bit more loyal to the Finnish people, but still like not all styles of music would be played, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a bit like that in Spain here. I mean, when I'm in here about 8 years now, when I came here first, people would say, "Oh, this artist is really big, and have you ever heard of them?" And I'd be like, "No, I haven't." And it's kind of, you realize that there's artists here that are huge in Spain, but they're never seen outside in other countries. Maybe in like Miami and Cuba and Latin American countries where the music might come across because it's the same language. But unfortunately, with other countries, the language can be a deterrent because, maybe a Finnish artist is really good, but their language, because of the language or singing the song in that language, they mightn't get played on English radio stations. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. The English language will always kind of supersede everything. So I suppose for a lot of Irish artists as well who'd like to sing in Irish, they realize it's easier to sing in English in other countries.
Yeah,
that's true.
And in Ireland, it's a better chance of getting played in Ireland if you're singing in English than Irish.
So guys, let's go back a little bit, Juliana. So you came to Ireland in 2003, and like, was it something that had been a plan for you, or was it a spontaneous thing? What made you come here?
No, it wasn't planned at all. It was all just so strange to look back at it and go like, how did I even end up here for so many years? Because it was really kind of, I suppose I'd say, I think what has kept me in Ireland is definitely the music and all that. But initially why I came here was just, I'd finished college. So I didn't study music in college. I studied youth work. And I remember on our last day of school, we were all kind of going around the students telling the teachers what we're going to do. And everybody else was like, "Oh, I'm going to get a job somewhere and I'm going to move some part wherever the job is." And I was kind of like, "No, I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to do something different." And I just had very itchy feet because I went to college straight away after I finished school. So I finished college maybe around 23 years of age, 22 or 23, and went traveling to Asia, Southeast Asia. And then I came back for a month to Finland, and I just happened to meet a couple of girls who had just come back from Ireland, and they had been in Galway, and they said that you would really love that place. Like, just go and have a look. Like, you would love that place. And I wanted to live somewhere for a while where I could improve my English. And I then thought that maybe I'll try Ireland. I didn't really know anything about it. So I just kind of I had a couple of €100 in my pocket. I took the flight here, got a place in Knocknagarra, and I was literally counting pennies when I was here. And I was like, I love it, but I don't really know how to make my way around it. And it was really, really funny looking back because you're young and you don't really care. Like, oh, you can go always get back home. But then, like, small things started to happen then, and I started noticing the music thing here, and I didn't even bring my fiddle here first. I just, a few months afterwards, then I asked my parents to bring my fiddle here because I noticed that the music scene here is like, there's a lot of fun with it, and people are in the pubs and all that. So it kind of started from like step by step kind of thing. I got a little job in a cafe, and then that kind of made it possible for me to stay. Then I started picking up the fiddle again, and then from there, it's kind of impossible to leave when you start meeting all the musicians and having all the fun and jobs and gigs and relationships, all that kind of stuff. So then now I'm still here.
Brilliant. And so we're like, you guys, obviously we have to let the public know who don't know you. A lot of people do know you, but anyone who doesn't, you're a couple, and how long have you been together?
Well, actually,
4.5 years.
Just 4.5 years, yeah. So
an eventful 4.5 years.
An eventful 4.5 years. And Donal, you can tell the story. Where did you meet, and how did it transpire?
We met at a going away party for Mikey McCrory. He used to play with Mikey in the Scallywags, who Juliana also played with. So he was going back to America, and there was a going away party in Nocton's one Sunday night. So we actually played a few songs together at that. Just there was kind of different combinations of lineups going up playing, and we ended up playing a song together that night. And then the moved from Nocton's to a party in the famous 12A in town. And the rest is history, as they say.
Wow, 4.5 years later, brilliant.
Yeah.
And for you, Juliana, you know, was there a thought in your head after a few years you might go back to Finland, and then obviously you fell in love and that changed a little?
No, never really. I suppose I at some point when Ryanair started flying between to my home city, so I'm from Tampere, and there was very cheap flights between Dublin and Tampere, direct flights, and they were really cheap. So I started going like 5-6 times a year to Finland at one point, and that point was the only time I kind of started getting really involved with my Finnish life and all the friends, and that was kind of nearly a bit more difficult then because I wasn't really living fully in one place. I was always living in Ireland, but there was a time that I was kind of like getting very involved with things, little things in Finland and my family and everything, and that. But then after that, I don't know. Now I'm kind of, I suppose we have 2 children here now as well, and the oldest one is going to play school now and 3 years old, and that. So now I'm much more rooted, like, and less kind of itchy feet in that way. Like you kind of have to settle a little bit with the kids, but no, I never really wanted to go back. I went maybe for a month at some stage, and I always wanted to come back to Ireland because I suppose the music thing here is so much more alive. I play kind of folk music, so it's not, the scene in Finland is very kind of small, and you can't really do so much with it. I suppose there is folk music festivals there and small groups that meet up, but it's completely different. You can't sort of have I suppose, a career with it, or you can't. It's not as sort of socially acceptable to be a musician, if you know what I mean. Like that everybody would have.
It's like, are you still at the music?
Exactly. Well, that's the only thing that really kind of matters to me. So I'm like, yeah, that's it. So you get those questions here as well, I suppose, sometimes. But
yeah.
Like, I suppose the area where we live here now as well, it's amazing. You know, around Headford, Shrule, Carristrand, there's amazing amount of musicians, and it's like it's completely okay to do a bit of teaching and do gigs and be involved with lots of different things, and like it's just even like thinking of Donal's radio show now, like when he plays local music, there is so much talent around this area that it's just easier. Like you have much more like-minded people around here than would be in my home city now, for example. I'd be kind of the lonely wolf there going. So it's nice, easier here.
I think that's the great thing about Ireland. It's very open, and you know, lots of musicians have kind of different lifestyles. Some have like gypsy lifestyles, and they do a bit of everything, move around. But I think, you know, there is always that person that's going to say you're still doing the music, and they're kind of looking at you judgmentally. But I mean, a lot of people are more open-minded, and they realize, you know, this is part of our culture, and it's an art form. And, you know, it's very hard to be the rich singer or the rich musician. You know, there's only a select few get to do that. So the rest of the people kind of do their bits and bobs, and they try and do different types of art and creativity and make a few quid, but still do the thing they love to do, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think it's not even a kind of a choice. It's something that I think we both feel, but I definitely feel that I kind of have to do because it's a huge part of my well-being, and it's like, it's very healing. It's very, hopefully it brings some joy sometimes to other people too, but it's mostly the kind of, I don't know, it's the inner feeling that you get. You kind of, it's a better place in my head or something. It's just something you kind of have to do for your well-being. And I think during the COVID now, like it was kind of hard then when suddenly that outlet was gone. So like even if like I had a baby, like our youngest one was born in June last year. So like I was going to take a little bit of a break from gigging maybe, but it still was kind of like we're used to having that every weekend, that outlet of energy or whatever it is, the flow, or I don't know what you call that, but it's just something we kind of have to do, really.
Yeah. And Donal, for you, obviously, because you've been involved with music for years, and as Juliana said, there in around Headford and Clonover and all that area, some great musicians, even Craddock and I know Nolly MacDonald's living down there, and the Joyces, and there's so much great music around that area. And I mean, for you, when did you kind of get started with music? Was it like as a teenager, or was it even younger?
Even younger. My brother was my first guitar teacher, my brother Dave. So he showed me the basic chords, as I say, when I was 8, 9, 10. And no, I was never playing to a mad high standard then. I would be kind of pulling out, living next door to Alice at family gatherings, this kind of thing, like, and just playing a few songs here and there. But I was always mad into music. But at that age, more listening to it than playing it, because having 8 older brothers, there was always loads of music around the house. Maybe finding Bruce Springsteen albums and Pink Floyd albums, and like I knew Dark Side of the Moon backwards by the time I was 10. So just there was always music in the house. It was always there. And I kind of drifted away from it then as I became a teenager and got into going out partying and having the crack, and it kind of took a bit of a backseat for me. And I went back at it then kind of more seriously when I was about 23 or 24. I kind of started hanging around more with the likes of Stephen and the lads, and they were playing in cover bands around town, and I started hanging around with them and playing with them, and just kind of started taking it a bit more seriously, I suppose. And it kind of takes over then, once you get the bug, there's no going back.
It's one of those things, isn't it? I suppose I think musicians and actors and everything, they have these peaks and valleys in their kind of musical career, and you can kind of think, oh, I won't do that again. Maybe I was doing it as a teenager, but then, as you said, in your 20s or 30s or later even, you can find something else inspires you, or you meet the right person. And I'm sure you guys, even when you got together, because you're both musicians, it kind of lit another fire, and you looked at things from a different angle, don't you?
No, I was just thinking, like, that's the kind of the only sort of life you could really live anymore. I suppose we met a bit later as well, so I don't know, we'd been playing the music and that for so many years, so that it's kind of like you have your lifestyle a little bit established already at that point, and then it's kind of, you couldn't really, I don't know, I couldn't see myself going out with somebody who isn't a musician, really, like, but
it'd be too much to have to explain.
Like all these weird choices we make, like what like
yeah, and like as history has told us, you kind of you'd meet a girl or a guy or somebody. It's usually more girls, and they'd say, "Oh, you going out with your man still, the guitar player?" And say, "No, he's still trying to be a star." And then she left him because he didn't make it, and he spent too much time practicing. And then one day he makes it, and she's knocking on his door again. So this is the thing. I mean, musicians can believe in each other, and they can give each other the support and the space. And they can kind of say, well, okay, that's a good idea and that might work and I'll support you on it. But if you're working as an accountant and your husband or wife is in a band touring around and, making a few quid, but kind of looking for the big time, sometimes they're like, well, the numbers aren't adding up. You're not making any money.
The numbers don't always have to come first.
No. But I suppose with an accountant, the numbers would have to come first.
Yeah. And I suppose the making it thing has never really been a kind of a priority for probably both of us, like, but not for me anyway. It's been more like trying to follow your intuition or trying to follow your own style, or maybe there's a development of like for me, like going from instrumental music to playing with singers for then to improvisation, then to like different things. So like you could end up being in lots of different projects for different reasons, but not it might be for my own personal development, maybe more than something that has to become something really hugely successful or that kind of way. So yeah.
So Juliana, for you, obviously, when you were in Finland, and what age did you start playing musical instruments or the fiddle? And do you play anything else besides that?
I started when I was 7 years old. So I went to this school, Steiner School, that is maybe known as Waldorf School here. I'm not sure it's called Steiner School or Waldorf School here, but it's so they have music, all like everyday music in the school. So, and the arts kind of follow from 7 years on until you're 18. So I had music in school all the time, and I started playing the fiddle then. Then at 9 years of age, I went to the classical kind of private lessons then, and that was then classical music and theory lessons, the orchestra, all that kind of thing. But I think where my passion was always in the folk music. So on Saturdays, there was a local folk music group that was meeting, and we joined that. I have 2 other older sisters and a younger brother. So we all played music. So we were going to this folk music group, and every Saturday then we did that. So there was actually a lot of music when I think of it. It was throughout the school time in school, and then the folk music and the classical music kind of as extra. And then even now my mom was saying that at Christmas holidays and summer holidays, we did these fiddle camps and different things like that. And we started going to folk music festivals straight away. So the lady who was kind of running the folk music group, she always had the younger ones there in the front and then the older ones in the back. And even if we could only play the open strings, we were always involved in it. So we started going to playing these little gigs like straight away in these folk music festivals. And then so I have great memories from that time, like really, really something that I remember feeling from the festivals, being like, this is really who I like. If I saw some band or something, I really want to be this, and I want to be doing this. So yeah, it was kind of a rich musical life, which I didn't really think about it then, but I think it's kind of helped me a lot here now to understand different things and technical things as well from the classical. I suppose the classical was never my passion, but I still stuck with it, and I did the grades, and then I stopped for a while after that when I was 18. So because it was getting a bit serious, and then
was that obviously Finnish folk music is similar in some ways probably to Irish folk music, but what was the differences for you, like when you started coming here and sitting in with a session or sitting in playing a tune? Did you have to adapt your playing?
Like technically, I think it was always sort of possible, but the difference here is definitely that nobody's reading notes, nobody's doing the sight reading. And even in Finland, even in the folk music group, we would have like half of the time been reading notes, and half of it maybe sometimes we were doing by ear. But here everybody is just playing by ear, so that was different, and it's a lovely way of learning because you end up listening to the others a lot more, and it's that's a big difference. But then of course, like there is the tunes are slightly different, but not that much. There's a lot of polkas and waltzes and similar kind of things in the music style in Finland. It was more about how it was learned and in what environment. And let's say like I could go, the first place I went to in Ireland was the Crane Bar, and you could just meet up there. I could have a drink. It was fun. It was like, it was not taken so seriously, and it's much more relaxed and fun, I think, here. But I think that's the main difference, I'd say.
I don't want to be too technical, but I was talking to Moredni Muini from Alton the other day, and she mentioned a point that I never really thought about, but obviously with being a fiddle player and even being an Irish musician, the Irish music scale. So, like, would the Finnish music scale for traditional music be much the same?
Yeah, I suppose in Finnish folk music there's a lot of sad music in it. So, like, it's not so much diddly, kind of energetic things. I suppose the tuning and the scales and that kind of the instruments are similar enough, but just the type of music is different, a little bit different. So there's a lot of really sad music in Finland, which kind of still is something that I absolutely love, and is something that now recently, when I've been kind of writing a little bit of more instrumental tunes myself, I kind of go back to that, and that's what's coming out. And I'm like, where does all this sadness come out of? Like, why? Well, when I kind of also love the bluegrass and that, but that's just whatever is from my roots. I think is the kind of sad, melancholic, kind of minor ones.
I think the good thing about that is because you have the mix of the two, it could make for some very interesting tunes and melodies, because, as you said, when the Irish one is more upbeat and energetic and the Finnish one maybe more melancholy in some tunes, when you write now, it's kind of coming from two different places, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was actually never really playing that much Irish traditional music. So what I did in Ireland, for some reason now, it started with a bit of kind of gypsy, Hungarian, kind of klezmer type and Scandinavian folk music. Then it went into bluegrass, and then went into kind of playing with bands and doing other things. And so I'm not a very good trad player at all.
Right.
So that's not yet. I always go like, maybe one year
Give it time. Donal, for you, obviously with the guitar, because did you when you were playing guitar, did you kind of fall into a style?
Yeah.
Or like, obviously as a teenager, we listened to a lot of rock and metal and stuff, and did you say, okay, I want to be a metal guitarist or a rock guitarist?
I was a big metalhead when I was a teenager, but I was never that proficient on the guitar that I'd be banging out solos or anything like that. That was never my kind of thing. I'm more into singing than the guitar. So for a long time, the guitar was just something to do with my hands while I'm singing.
When there wasn't a pint.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of, I wouldn't really view I still just really only play chords, and I wouldn't be the most technically proficient guitarist out there, but I can kind of make it work to suit what I'm doing, kind of, if you know what I mean. So I'd view myself more as a singer than a guitarist.
Right, okay. And like, so when you look at your singing style, or what kind of influenced you, like you were saying there, Springsteen and everything. So did you find yourself coming at the singing side more from that side, that kind of Waterboys, Bruce Springsteen stuff?
Oh, maybe, yeah. But like when I was younger, like we had a metal band, and it was a bit more shouting and screaming, a bit more. Rage Against the Machine would have been a huge influence.
Yeah, Zach De La Rocha and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was more that kind of stuff in my 20s, maybe, and I don't know. I suppose as I started getting older, then I kind of mellowed a bit, and I went back to the likes of Springsteen and the Waterboys and John Prine and Bob Dylan and Guy Clark, all these guys, with more of a kind of storytelling, songwriter kind of thing. And I love the big band sound then of the E Street Band and the Waterboys and that, like, so. Yeah, it was kind of like I was into them when I was younger, and then I got into metal, and then I went back to them, kind of, if that makes sense. And that would be more, like, I still love metal now, but it's kind of hard to find the time to listen to metal with two young kids. And
no, it's different. I'm like that because I think the first band I ever really got into was the Waterboys, and I just loved it, and I didn't know why, and then it was Guns N' Roses, and then Metallica and heavier bands and stuff. But like, as you say, you come back more to music. So, my car is like a crazy eclectic mix of music. The kids are like, I was bringing them to someone's house the other day, and I put on, I think it was Pantera, and they loved it. And And next minute I said, well, hold on, we'll keep the vein going here now. So I started putting on a lot of heavy stuff. And Jesus, by the time they got to the other people's house, I'd say the parents had a nightmare because they were wired. You know?
Oh, it's great. There's great power in it, like, you know, and there's
Yeah.
like Pantera were serious, and System of a Down were big for me as well. And Metallica, like you were saying, Nirvana. I got very big into Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, all that as well. So yeah, I kind of like started off nice and mellow and got a bit heavier, and then kind of started on the slope down again now to the mellow stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about, you know, when you get into your 30s and 40s and older, is that, you know, you can be going along in your car and listening to, you know, Sade and then the Waterboys and then Pantera.
Yeah.
And you have that choice, you know,
Yeah.
you just, whatever feels right in the moment.
Well, that's it. They're all different stages of your life where that was the most important music to you. And now, like you're saying, it's all important and it all has its time and place. But for my
And
own...
it's moods, isn't it?
Well, that's it, yeah. The different music, different moods. Like you couldn't pick if top 5 favorite albums because it keeps changing every day.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
that's the thing. People, when I get them on the radio show and they're like, "Geez, it's hard to pick 10 or 12 songs." Like, you know, there's supposedly your favorite. Everyone says that's the hardest bit they find because it completely changes depending on your mood and even what the weather is like. You know, all these things can change.
And you know, I'm sure people are like, you know, they've made the choice and then they're listening to a song just before the interview on the radio and they go, "Oh, geez, I should have put that in and forgot about that band."
Every time, yeah, every time. A lot of surprising selections, but
yeah,
good.
Yeah. And Juliana, for you, you know, growing up as a teenager, was your influence mainly Finnish bands or pop bands, or, you know, did you have a lot? Was there other international bands that you really loved?
Well, there actually was. Let's say now. Actually, to be honest, now I grew up in a very unusual family in that way that we didn't have TV. My parents had decided that we will grow up without TV, and so I'm to kind of promote our imagination and all that kind of stuff, so we wouldn't be children who were stuck in front of TV screens, and which is great. We had lots of other things and amazing hobbies and horses and animals and everybody playing music, and we did a lot of very, very amazing things. So so I had, in some way, like my early childhood was, I didn't really have those things, but as a teenager then maybe it started. Actually, I remember getting into kind of like Verve and Blur and actually Nirvana as well, and like other really, really cool things. Not so much Finnish folk or any kind of Finnish music. Maybe a couple of heavy metal bands, because I was sharing a room with my brother and he was into heavy metal, and I was like, okay, this isn't really my thing, but but I had a choice. So there was definitely music, but kind of more as, not as 10 years old, maybe more as a teenager. And my parents used to love listening to classical music, so we were listening to a lot of that, which was something that I don't really listen to an awful lot at home anymore. But I suppose it's amazing music, obviously. But yeah, that's
okay. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing about music. It can come from all angles and all styles, and it kind of, you know, if somebody says, "Oh, music didn't shape me," they're kind of lying in some way, because, you know, the thing is, music shapes you as a child, a young child hearing it, as a teenager, and definitely once you start playing it, you have a new appreciation, you know, for certain instruments. And, you know, like if you're playing guitar and then you start learning bass, you listen to the bass more in songs, and you know what I mean? So the thing is that, as someone said to me once, you know, Jesus, if you're a multi-instrumentalist, you must go crazy listening to some tunes, because you're hearing all the different instruments and taking them all in and analysing, you know.
Obviously, there was a lot of bands now to think of afterwards that we were listening. Even now, sometimes when I talk to Donald, I was like, I was into that as well. And depending, my older sisters were into different music as well. So there was a lot of different influences. But what kind of stuck with me then is different again. Like that, I think, comes from the music.
So just there, you mentioned with your sisters, and well, I suppose I'll ask you first, Donal, because Donal, you've a big family, haven't you? You said you've 8 brothers. How many is in your family entirely?
I'm the youngest of 11.
11. Wow, that's a big
8
family.
brothers and 2 sisters.
I went to school with a guy and in Currafin, and he had 11 in his family, and I remember that years ago. And sometimes now, it's funny in Spain. You tell people, they consider 3 a big family here. And I said, Jesus, you could fit one family into 4 families here in Ireland. Because even my family, there was 6 children. And I tell people that, and they're like, 6? I'm saying, that's nothing. I know people with 8, 9, 10, 11 children.
But we're not even the biggest family in Shrule. We're about the 4th biggest, I think.
The 4th.
We're in the top 5, like, but there's definitely a few to go with.
Wow. And so you being the youngest, did you have to, was it easier for you, or did you get all the hand-me-downs, and did you get all the soft touches then?
Got the hand-me-downs too. And I suppose my siblings would say that I was a bit spoiled, but I dispute that a bit.
Of course you do.
But there's between myself and my eldest sister, there's a 19-year difference. So by the time I was growing up a bit, like, a lot of them had moved out and moved on. So
you meet them in the street and you're like, are you my sister?
Not quite that bad, like, but
yeah.
Like, it was the 80s too, so like I was born in 78, so in the 80s a lot of my brothers would have gone to England, and the early 90s, there was, I think there was 5 of them in London at one stage, but everyone is back home now, like, so the furthest away from Shrule any of them is Loughrea, so it's good now. Everyone is back local.
So actually, like, obviously because of COVID and the restrictions being 6 people, your family had to nearly meet in 2 bunches, 2 different houses nearly.
Well, yeah, but it might be a good idea to do that anyway sometimes. But
at Christmas and stuff.
In Shrule, so we would have met going to see her. So yeah, we still meet up a good bit, like, it's.
And you mentioned there your brother Dave played the guitar and taught you. Was there, because I think I saw that a few others in the house play music too, don't they?
No, not really. No, just myself and Dave. Well, my brother Dermot used to play a bit of drums and piano. He used to play with a band called Freelance back in the day. They were a famous old Shrule band. And everyone would have a song for the party pieces, like my mother was a great singer, so the music is in there, but just, I suppose, not everyone chose to explore it, maybe.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what I actually find very different in Finland and Ireland, is that, like, you have family parties and everybody, like, is so excited to sing and play, and everybody sings and everybody plays, like, even if they don't, like, go further with it or they don't make it into a career or something, they still are able to, and they still want to do it. Like, Donal has a 18-year-old son, and I remember 19. I remember, like, him going, like, just waiting, couldn't wait until he can sing a song in a party, and like that's something completely unheard of in my family, or not necessarily my family. My family could be quite musical, but like in terms of Finnish parties and things, like, we would listen to music, but not sing and play. Like, it's so much more alive here, I think, in every family.
Everyone has one song.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and it's kind of like, the sisters would be like, don't sing that fucking song. That's mine. It'd be like, it's like before, it's where they're going on stage at Wembley, like, don't you dare sing that song, and the sisters say, well, I kind of like it now, so can I sing it with you? And they'd be like, no, that's my
song. One singer, one song was a famous saying in our house, that if someone is singing a song and you try to sing along with them, everyone will tell you to be quiet. One singer, one song.
Yeah, that's his song.
Sure, yeah.
And Juliana, for you, how many is in your family? Was it a small family? Small compared to Donal's, maybe?
Well, small, about half of that. But I have 2 older brothers as well from my dad's side, and then I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger brother. So yeah, we're kind of big family for Finland. Definitely, yeah. My two older brothers were kind of a little bit more like uncles to me. They were a bit older. So yeah, everybody playing music now in fairness. So that was lovely. We had a little band together as well with two of my sisters and a couple of other neighbors when we were kids, like, and stuff. So we were kind of playing in local little events and that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of similar kind of interests, but they did end up dropping the music. And actually, my older sister now, she's been teaching violin still a little bit. She's the primary school teacher, so she's been kind of on the side teaching a little bit as well. But I think they would be very musical, but they wouldn't have had the space to do it because it's not so much possible in Finland in that way as it is here. So, but like my brother would have been super musical, very, very good. Like I remember when we went to this classical school and he had very, very good ears. And like, I remember he was always getting all 10 marks out of 10 of everything. And my sister was asking him like that, how do you do that? Like when you just listen to a chord or listen to intervals or whatever, and you have to mark what you're hearing. And then he just said that, I just listen and then I write down what it is. And we were like, yeah, but like, how did it? So
maybe his perfect pitch.
Yeah, but then in the end, like he also then ended up leaving the music because it's sort of, the life is a little bit different in Finland. And then, you know, I'm glad now I found this place, this Ireland, and we could continue that, because I think there was a little bit of passion for everyone there. But
that's great. And you know, like, one question I want to ask you guys, obviously we were mentioned there earlier about, obviously it's hard being a musician. Is there, you know, jobs like Donal, when you look back now, did you do lots of different jobs kind of trying to discover who you are and who you wanted to be?
Well, I left school when I was 16 to train as an electrician with my brother Dave. I had no mad passion to be an electrician, but I had no mad passion for school either. So I figured I might as well make a few quid. And the only way to keep them happy at home when leaving school was to do an apprenticeship. So it's still something I've mostly worked as an electrician over the years. It's means to an end. It's hard to make a living solely as a musician. So it's good to have that to fall back on. I can go and do a couple of days work here and there when I want, or take on small jobbings and do that. Like, it's like, it's not something I ever wanted to see myself doing forever, but it's good to have it. Ideally, it'd make enough of a living out of music, but that's not the case. So it's good to have something else.
The funny thing about music is, if you're an electrician or a carpenter or a plumber or whatever, you know, you do enough and to make a few quid and keep the family alive as such, and then you try and do the music at the weekends, and if you get paid, brilliant. But the thing about it is, if it was the other way around and you could make enough music or enough money with the music, you probably wouldn't do the other work.
Oh, no way. Not a chance, like. Not a chance. But like,
yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
That's what I was doing. I was working full-time as an electrician Monday to Friday, and then gigging Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And with the young kids and everything, like, it was tough. So it was nice to actually get the break when the lockdown came, to just be able to sit back and know, you know, we're not going to go hungry, we'll be grand, and just have a bit of time and not be rushing around out of the rat race for a while. Like,
as the fella says, the only wire is the one on the telly.
Exactly.
And Juliana, for you, you know, when you were, because you mentioned there when you came to Ireland and you were, you know, counting the pennies, as lots of people do when they arrive on foreign shores. And did you kind of think, this is what I want to do, or, you know, I'm going to make money from music, or, you know, what kind of jobs did you fall into?
No, well, actually, first job was in a cafe, just to kind of be able to stay in Ireland. But then, because I had a degree in youth work, so I kind of then, when I decided that I'm going to stay in Ireland for a while, I started looking for jobs. And I worked for a long time in rehab care with people with Asperger's syndrome and mental health difficulties, and in a residential service. And I suppose I think I was there for 7 years or something, and it was very good. It was never full time. I think maximum 30 hours I ever worked there. So it always gave me the kind of security of financial security. And I was only kind of finding my feet in Ireland with music at that time anyway. But then, like, you could always do the gigs at weekends. And we've quickly formed a band with 3 other Swedish people, and that we randomly found on the streets, basically, in Galway. And
as you do,
like, you kind of like, to me, something now like the Grain Bar or busking was like the first thing that you notice, that you go somewhere and you meet all these people, then you like their music, and then you start jamming, and then you form a band, then you make an album, then you do gigs, and then, but that was kind of on the side with the job always at that point. So I did kind of a little bit of a career in healthcare work like that. I was at some stage for a team leader as well for a few years, but that was maybe not something that I'd be going for back now. It was sort of a little bit stressful in a way and stuff. So then after that, I've been I did another healthcare job in Brothers of Charity for a few years, and that was kind of on a relief panel. And then I did some voluntary work for a year and a half. I moved to Allihies, to a meditation center, and I was kind of like, at that point I was ready to leave Galway for a while, so I just went to a smaller place there. And I also worked there in a kind of care center type, where people come that need a little bit of support. So I worked there, but that was voluntary completely. But then I ended up missing the music a lot in Allihies. Actually, at first I didn't have a place to play there at all. I couldn't even play where I was living. So, but in Allihies, obviously that's the lovely. It's like Wild West. It's a brilliant place of artists and musicians. And I then ended up finding my little sessions there as well at weekends. So I could start playing gigs there as well, a little bit less than in Galway, obviously. But so I made some great friends from that time, and moved back to Galway then. But now I'm kind of with the kids. Emily's 3 years old now, and Maya is just turning 1. So I was doing a few days of teaching before in the last few years, but I'm kind of in the planning stage now, that what will I do for for living.
I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That when new things pop up, because as Donal said, you can kind of do the one thing for a long time, but sometimes when you're kind of trying out different things, you don't know what the future is going to bring. You could be doing something completely different next year, and trying to work it around the music, or trying to work the music around it, whichever is better. But I mean, that's what makes life interesting, because things change.
That's it. Yeah, I think all my life, really, I have had kind of the care work thing, or the healthcare work, or something interesting there, that I still kind of explore the idea of maybe I will work in that area a little bit more. But then it's between the two. Like, I wouldn't be cut for many jobs now. It's either helping people in some form, or else music. Like, I couldn't really work in a restaurant or a cafe, or else obviously the dream is to have your own place and to have a little music venue, and
of course, yeah,
that kind of thing.
You're living the dream a little bit,
We're getting there.
yeah.
Donal, let's talk about the radio show, Clachan Over Sounds, and obviously you have Nicola Joyce does a show there as well. How many shows are you doing at the moment? Is there just the two of you, or is there other shows in the pipeline?
There's 4. There's two shows on a Friday night as well there. Eamon Stack does one, and Jimmy MacDonald does one. So we kind of have subscription we have now. We can do up to 3 hours, 7 days a week.
Explain to us how it works, like, because you're going out over on internet stations and stuff. Do you have to have like special licenses, or how do you kind of get set up?
I think just to play the music, I think it's you pay something like €75 to IMRO or something for the year, and that covers. It's a special rate for community radios. That Willie Campbell looked after all that side of it, so we kind of had
Brilliant.
free rein then to just play whatever we wanted. Which, but I don't know. I don't know if that would work on the likes of Spotify or YouTube because there is copyrighted music in there. But for going out live on Mixlr where we are, it seems to work. So no one has come after us yet, anyway.
No, and I think that's great. I see there as well is Big Sam, Jerry Curley, and Freedom Gold. It's a great show as well.
Yeah, that's what I get text after every day, like about it.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But that's great. It's a great way to keep in touch during the lockdown, like for everyone to hear each other's voices, and to kind of stay connected to the community while you're locked down.
During the lockdown, obviously, you had all of these artists and musicians and actors and everything at home, and they're twiddling their thumbs and trying to see what they would do next. And I mean, for shows like this, and even my own podcast, it's kind of great. You get in touch with these, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not doing too much at the moment, so I might come in and do a show or whatever."
Everyone had time in their hands.
Yeah, everyone had time in their hands. I'm worrying about next year if they lift all the restrictions and won't be able to get any guests.
And also, like, we started, like, this room probably eventually was maybe planned as one of the kids' room, but now we turned it into a little studio, and now this is our sacred place where we haven, where we close the door and go, and that this is where you can do the music and you can do the recording. We built up, bought a few little bits for recording. So I've done some recording. You've done some recording here as well. You do the radio here, and like it's just all these things just suddenly started happening when the lockdown hit because we had to start doing it from home. So it's great now. They're up and running. So
Donal, when you were doing it, obviously sometimes you have people coming in, but then you sometimes have them over the web as well because of COVID and everything. How did that kind of work out over the last few months?
Well, I didn't. I actually prefer having them here. So when things were really bad with COVID, I didn't have a guest. I was just doing it on my own.
Right.
So there was a few months there where it was just me talking to myself and playing music I liked and trying to come up with interesting themes. But anytime I have a guest, to have them here in the house, obviously, and we're trying to be as safe as we can. But
of course.
I just find, I don't know, I find it easier. The way I look at it is just two friends having a chat. And it happens to be recording, rather, you know what I mean. I found it hard. I find the Zoom thing and that hard a lot of the time, but it's grand now and again. If I had to do it every week, I think it'd drive me mad.
Yeah, I think for me, like as you say, I think there's nothing that beats the feeling of being in a room with somebody and having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and it's like that chat. And it is for me, even doing the podcast over the air, and like sometimes I'm doing an interview with someone and they're in America and they're like 9 hours behind, and then you have the technical problems and everything, and it's difficult. It's more work. But like for me, I kind of didn't have a choice because I was in Madrid and I was thinking, well, I want to interview Irish artists and people from my own community. I had to do it that way. So for me, it'd be great. I mean, if the time ever came where I could do it one-on-one, it'd be great. But like that, I think what happens, obviously, there'll be times that you mightn't get people in and everything. So you have to make it work, whatever is best for you, don't you?
Well, that's it, exactly, yeah. Like if it becomes a job or a chore, it's not enjoyable. Like so. But it was good because even with the restrictions here, you were allowed record for broadcasting. That was always in the things, like, except now from maybe December to March, April, when things were very, very bad. I just stopped having people come over, and I just did all the shows myself. And, that was grand too, but after a while, you're kind of itching to talk to someone again, and you're fed up with the sound of your own voice, kind of. So it's good to have people back again.
No, it's good. I mean, it's a better when you have that, and you know that there's a chemistry between the host and the guest, which works better as well, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah. And they've all been friends of mine so far. So
Yeah.
that definitely makes it easier. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I think the good thing as well is about the only major good thing about the COVID restrictions was it allowed people to kind of get back in touch with each other, and you know they'd be like, say, even for me doing the podcast, I'd say, oh, I'm going to ask this person on, and I wouldn't have seen them for years, and they'd be like, Jesus, you know, it's been 10 years or it's been like that. So not only did families reconnect, I mean, even in shows like this kind of thing or your show, people got a chance to reconnect and find out what's happening with people they lost touch with.
But that's it. Yeah. It has had some positive ramifications, but it hasn't been all doom and gloom.
Yeah, and then you've become very kind of no, just that like it forced us to become a bit more self-sufficient or something, that like you have to come up with something from home. So it's been actually very, very good. Like, of course, we love the idea of going to play gigs and going to do that, but then like even learning to record from home, and like for me now was huge thing, was I hate technology and I'm very bad at it, and just it just helped me to. Actually, I feel kind of empowered now because I can work out a recording program. I can record my fiddle from home myself, and I'm kind of like, you know, you had to do it if you wanted to, had to adapt. And like, obviously we did it that way, that Donal learned it first and then he taught me. But you know, like then you can put out a song, and I've done my parts from home and stuff. So that's kind of, it's all possible, and you kind of end up learning an awful lot about different things that you wouldn't have learned if you didn't have to. Like,
you're reminding me there, it's like when he said he learned it first and then he showed me. It's like the IKEA manual. You have a look at it there. I'm just going to the toilet. Back out a half an hour later. Did you figure it out?
But still, like,
and then looking at you, I thought you knew what you were doing.
But still, we have the two young kids, so it's only kind of one in our family home. Like, it's only one person who can do something. Like during the lockdown now, when everybody was home, it's like the other one has to be with the kids. So then, like, I had to learn the things to do myself too. So I couldn't just rely on somebody else pressing the buttons because the kids were around and stuff. So,
but I know myself, even, you know, if you're ever recording, and my kids are like 10 and 8 now, but even a few years ago, you'd be trying to record vocals or working on a new song or something, you know, and you'd say to everyone, you know, I'd say, listen guys, you have to be quiet now for like 5 or 10 minutes because I'm trying to do vocals. And Jesus, and next minute all you hear is and you'd be like, and I always laugh because if I go back through some of the vocal takes, you'll hear, would you shut the fuck up? You know, you'd be like, all I want is 5 minutes. And then you're back trying to be professional again. So, I mean, children and recording studios and recording vocals don't go together.
No. But if you listen closely to some of my radio shows, you'll hear some shouting and crying in the background through the door.
For sure. So, let's talk a bit about, obviously, the bands, both bands, the Rains and Cousin Tablet and everything else. So Juliana, you were on with the girls, Yvonne and Ruth, before with the Rains, and you had your single Bare Feet on Grass, and you have a new single coming out soon, have you?
Yeah, so on the 11th of June, a new single called Love is Sublime Till It Draws Out. It's gone. It's a kind of an upbeat, fun little song, and yeah, it's coming out on the 11th.
It's a good song.
Of course, it's brilliant.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's coming out now, and it's coming out also on the same day as the Westport Bluegrass Festival that we have played. I've played many, many times before, but now it's all happening online, and it's been streamed through the Station In TV in Nashville. So that's also coming out on the 11th of June. So we're kind of putting them both together out and just see how it goes. We recorded it during the lockdown kind of remotely as well. So it's been taking. We kind of needed to have a little project, otherwise it feels like the bands don't really get like, it was something in the background we had to be trying to do, but it was actually quite complicated to do it that way remotely, because you're not in the same space and same room and all that. But we managed to finish it, and we'll put it out, and I think it's great. Yeah, it's lovely. We have
brilliant. And for you guys, I mean, obviously you had the other single and this single. Are you kind of trying to work on an album, or is that something that'll be more long term?
Yeah, well, it's we have plans to record an album. It's just when to do it and how to do it is kind of the problem. There's lots of songs. Ruth is a really fantastic songwriter, and we all have the excitement for the doing our own parts and arranging and finding the harmonies. But we kind of do have to be able to meet up to make it, to practice them properly and stuff. So we are kind of looking into when to do it and how to do it. Really, I actually personally now really enjoy doing my parts from home. So at least some kind of pre-recording thing I could be still doing from home. But then when you get session musicians in as well, we had Willie Merrigan doing bass and Cesar Benzoni doing mandolin on it, and Liam Bradley, this fantastic drummer, doing kind of percussion drum on it. So that gets tricky then if you're not in the same space. So we kind of have to, we have to be able to meet up and practice and do that kind of stuff. So we'll make a proper plan now then how to make it. Brian Masterson is who has been helping us with the remote recording a lot now. So like he has a studio in Wicklow. So one idea is just to go there and do a couple of songs there as the band, rather than doing the remote.
Have another lockdown of recording.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great, yeah, because you had a great reception for the Bare Feet on Grass single, and I think, I think it's only onwards and upwards for you guys. So it'll be interesting now when it comes out, and obviously when you play the Westport Blues Festival, that'll be really good. So let's talk about Whatever Happened to Betty, the Cousin Tablet song. That got great reviews and reception as well, and a great song. Tell us the story about that, Donal.
Yeah, well, Betty worked in my family home and pub back in the late 60s, early 70s. So like my mother had 7 or 8 kids at that stage, and the pub and a shop, and my father had a full-time job as well. So it's kind of needed a bit of help around the house. So Betty had been born in a mother and baby home, and she had a tough upbringing, and I'm not sure exactly the connection that got her to Shrule, but she ended up anyway coming to Shrule to work in the family business and helping my mother with the kids. It was more work helping my mother with the kids and maybe doing a bit of cleaning and stuff in the bar, that kind of thing. But she was in Shrule for a few years anyway, and my older brothers and sisters loved her. And it's hard to get a lot of details, exact details, because my brothers and sisters were so young at the time, and my mother doesn't remember very well. But some of the details I managed to get. There's still a room actually in our home, my mother's house, called Betty's room. It's always never been called Betty's room. So that always kind of was in my head. Who's this Betty? Like, why is she the only person who has a room named after her? Like, so
why does she have a room in my house?
Yeah. So I was kind of asking the questions, and I was like, oh yeah, she used to work here years ago. And then kind of at the late night family functions, you might start getting a few more little details, like, and so I found out then that while she had been in Shrule, that she fell pregnant. And supposedly a local priest, I don't know if it's a local priest, a priest, heard that she was pregnant and had her sent back to a mother and baby home. And that was the last anyone in my family ever heard of her.
So she, while she was working in the pub or with your mother, she fell pregnant, and then she kind of just vanished. Like,
well, from what I can understand was that a priest heard that she was pregnant and arranged for her to be sent to a mother and baby home, despite the protestations of my parents or whatever, like. And that's the way it was then, and that's not an excuse for it, but never heard from her again after that.
How old would she be, do you think, now, if she was still alive, or?
She'd be in her early 70s, I'd say.
Wow.
So it's quite possible she's alive.
Yeah, there's a probability. I mean, it's funny because my mother works kind of not works, it's a big hobby of hers for a good few years as a genealogist. And she kind of traces family and people who have been lost to families in America, and people that got off the boat, and it's amazing sometimes, like, what you can find from the censuses and from the information and ancestry and all of that. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, she might turn up.
Yeah, and I was always conscious of not intruding as well, because I was kind of aware of the fact that if she wanted to get back in touch, she knew how to. You know what I mean? So I don't think it would have been fair to intrude on her. And I don't know. I just thought it wasn't my place to go snooping, kind of. And if she wanted to get in touch, she would. But it was always in my head, like, I wonder whatever happened to her, like.
Yeah. I wonder if she heard the song and she's thinking, are they talking about me?
Well, it's quite, I considered changing the name, but Betty just fitted right in the song, so it had to stay.
That's funny, just when you mention about the name, or the name. I was reading a music magazine there like a year or two ago, and they were talking to that that band from America, Greta Van Fleet, that kind of sound like Led Zeppelin. And they said to them, where did you get the name? And they said, oh, there was a woman in the town and her name was Greta Van Fleet, and we thought it was a great name, so we called the band after that. And but we went and asked her, did she mind? And she was an elderly woman, and she said, no, I'm honored, thank you very much. But what happened was, then they were playing in the town, they got a bit bigger, and they put the name up on the sign, the cinema sign, Greta Van Fleet. And there was other women coming to the old woman's house going, Greta, your name is on the cinema sign. What's going on? So it's funny what a name can do, or stir up emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just fitted in with the tune and everything, and it was like, it just worked, and it was true. So it's always better to have the truth in there, I think.
And like with Cousin Tablet, explain how that kind of came about, because I know obviously, sometimes when you're playing with friends and stuff and bands, the name is not that important. It's the connection with the bands, and people are together for years. And Cousin Tablet is kind of a new thing with probably people you've played with before. But are you writing a lot of songs, or what's the kind of situation?
Yeah, we've the guts of an album written. So kind of the way it's working is that I kind of do a bit of writing here, and I might have a verse and a chorus, or I might have two verses and a chorus or whatever. And then I'll go and jam with the lads, and we'd flesh them out and make them songs. That's generally the way it's been so far. So yeah, we recorded two songs the time we recorded Betty, and the plan was to release the other one as a single in the meantime. But I've kind of written a few more since now, and definitely one that I think will be more suitable for the next single. So We're going back into the studio now in a couple of weeks to record 2 or 3 more songs. And we record live. It kind of works for us to record I like that live sound. You do the bass, the drums, and the guitars all live in the studio. And then you can add the bells and whistles in our own time after. Like Juliana puts her violin on here. Stephen is developing a studio in his place there as well. So we can do some vocals and we can do sax and stuff there. So it's just a system that works for us. And go into the Black Gate in Galway there and get the bones of the song down, and then kind of finish them at our own pace between our home studios and Stephen's studio and places like that.
That's really good. I mean, and do you hope, obviously within the next year or so, to kind of maybe start touring a bit with it?
Oh, big time, yeah. But I'm kind of reluctant to book anything at the minute if it's going to have to be cancelled and rearranged and that. So when we know for sure we can do gigs, we'll book some.
Right, that's really good. I mean, would you say then that, Cousin Tablet was born out of the COVID kind of time, or was it something that was going to happen before?
Well, we would never have had the time to do it before. So that was I was working full time and gigging at the weekends. So I'd never had time to kind of finish writing ideas that I had. But once the lockdown came, it was like, cool, I'll finish that song, cool, that's great. And, you had the time to concentrate on writing and not have to worry about, oh no, I actually need to learn songs for the cover gigs that pay the bills. So you could actually concentrate on, well, this is what I want to do now. And, having time to actually finish ideas and not have loads of half ideas thrown around the place.
It was lovely for both of us, actually, that way that we both, it kind of started coming. Like I haven't been writing an awful lot of instrumental tunes myself either before, like a couple I have, and I've been gigging them and all that, but still it's been something kind of like in the background, because always other things kind of have taken priority for whatever reason. But like we kind of took turns then, like that like whoever is, like, it's your day today, my day next day, because of the kids and stuff. So it was lovely. For both of us, it was very creative time. Like songs and tunes just started coming, and like you just put them. I remember being in the room there, going like, "Where's this all coming from?" It's just like it's been piling up somewhere, and it's just like had the space to come out. And same for you. Like it was really lovely, because now again, when things start to open, you have to start getting busier again. Like it just, life gets busier, so you don't have that creative space so much anymore, or it's more difficult with kids and schools and the gig, like jobs and teaching and all that stuff. So yeah, it did work creatively quite well.
The scary thing about COVID restrictions ending, that there's probably a lot of people who developed quite a kind of, routine about songwriting and working on their music and doing all sorts of stuff. And now with the restrictions ending, they're like, geez, I won't have time to do anything. Will I be able to continue this? So that's kind of something we never would have imagined that we'd worry about.
Well, that's it. Like, it's you can kind of nearly feel it already a bit now. Things are opening up a bit. Like there's less time there now, and kind of going back into maybe working a day or two a week, and that takes up a lot of time, because if I'm gone working, that means Juliana can't do anything either. So that's 2 days where neither of us are creative. So, and then you're trying to split the time that's left, and, it definitely does cut down on it. I would say the most productive part was the first 6 months, March to September last year. And we loved it. We thought it was great.
That's in heaven.
A rest, and it was summertime, and loads of time for writing songs and writing tunes and hanging out. The winter was a bit harder, all right, but yeah, it was great for us both to have projects to keep the wheels turning, and to have the time to do them. And hopefully, by the time we come out of it, then we'll kind of be a bit more established with both projects, like.
And since you're the first couple I've had on the podcast, would you call yourself a power couple?
Oh, yes. Well, only because I'm an electrician.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You made the connection. Excuse the pun. No, of course, you could be Clan Over's Beyonce and Jay-Z. You never know.
I don't know. Nolly and Nick might have something to say about that now.
Oh God, they might. They'll be like, hold on, that's our
There's a few of them.
Yeah, there is a few power couples in Clan Over, isn't there?
And Pauline and
Eamon.
Avin and Oriana.
Avin and Oriana. Wow.
Any amount of them.
Yeah, there's something in the water down there, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, like we were saying, I think everybody finds it easier to be with another musician. It's just that bit of understanding. Like,
I think what it is too, though, there's like border control there, and they say You know, is your husband a musician? Is the wife a musician? No, you can't be together, guys. You're in the wrong place, you know?
No, that when you're kind of older, like I said, like we all have also, I was living in Galway city centre for ages, and so were you. And like that was the place to be at that time, like in my 20s or 30s or something. But then it's like, now I don't really know the people there anymore. And the face is kind of gone. And now people are more our age are kind of naturally sort of moving a bit further away from the city centre. And that seems to be like now Headford has become this place where all these older middle-aged musicians come, and they feel very comfortable here, and that's so yeah. It's I've had amazing times in Galway, you know.
I was talking to Pauline Scanlon a few weeks ago there, and she's down that side obviously now as well. So it's like a celebrity village, isn't it, down there?
Actually, not celebrity, but anyway.
Well, the town Campbell have a lot to do with that as well, like the attraction of Campbell's.
Yeah, of course.
That's kind of, I suppose, the hub of the scene.
Yeah. I mean, Willie Campbell has done a lot for music there, and you know, the tavern, it's been a great place, hasn't it, over the years?
Oh, big time. Like it's like a community centre with a bar in it. You know, it's been great. Like there's just a great sense of community about the place. Like there's so many things. Like say a lot of the musicians around now, gigs we've done over the years, we've put towards buying gear, and we have like 3 or 4 PA systems there now that we keep in Campbell's, and everyone uses them, you know, for their own separate gigs and stuff. Like, and they'll use them in Campbell's for the gigs in Campbell's, and it's a very unique kind of a setup that you don't find in a lot of places, and it can be disastrous sometimes because people don't bring back gear and stuff goes missing, but it works. It's worked for the last 10 or 15 years there, and everyone has equipment when they need to go do gigs and stuff. But it kind of wouldn't work without having Campbell's as the hub for it, if you know what I mean. There kind of has to be a base for it, and it just works. It's
yeah. Well, I think what it is there, I mean, it's that sense of community and the music community, and that's like the church of the community.
Exactly.
And people respect it. People respect each other, and they look after each other, and they support each other and everything. And the thing about it is, that's a great thing to have, you know, and you just don't want it to turn into like a cult or a commune or anything. Just stay away from that.
No, well, I'm not going that bad yet now. Like, no one has tried to become the figurehead yet, so we're still good.
No, you don't want that. You know? Keep them away from that. So listen, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've really enjoyed the chat, and it's been great to kind of hear a bit about your history and your present and your future as well. So, you know, I look forward to good things coming from both of you. And, you know, we'll keep in touch, and, you know, we'll have you on again, the show in different formats, I suppose, separate, together, whatever, you know. So I want to thank you again, and we look forward to more things. Thanks a lot. Julia Erkkonen and Donal Gibbons, everybody.
Thanks
for having us, Simon. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Okay, thank you very much, Juliana and Donal. That was a pleasure to have you guys on. We had a nice song from you as well, so that was really good. And we hope to have you on the show in the future. And thanks for telling us everything about your community and the musical spirit that's there, and all the artists who play in Campbell's and everything, and the Clachanova radio show. We hope people tune into that as well. And it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks so much. Moving on to next week's guest, Canadian country rock artist Susie Corey from Toronto. Born in Beirut, Susie Corey's parents moved the family to Toronto when she was 8 months old. Her mother, a devoted fan of country music, would continuously play classic country, and Susie found herself singing along. By her teens, she became exposed to hard rock, most notably Guns N' Roses. Having spent several years abroad, it was after her move back to North America and a fateful meeting with her idol and inspiration, Axl Rose, that the fire to write and perform was reignited. And I hope you tune into that, and as you tune in for the others, and I hope you've enjoyed today's show. Thanks very much for joining us, and we welcome you back anytime. So, my name is Simon Kay. This is the Collective Whisper podcast. Look after yourself, look after your family, and until the next time, bye-bye.